All right. Breaking news. Bob Arum knows who Al Haymon is. Seriously, though, Bob Arum shares his thoughts on why Al Haymon made Luis Ortiz versus versus Deontay Wilder rematch. And it's just a little bit disrespectful to the champ. Let's talk about that in this video. All right, welcome back to the channel, subscribers. If you are not subscribed, please subscribe and hit the bell icon so you can be notified of when we release more videos. And also, I want to say thank you to everybody that supports the chat that we do Monday through Fridays, right around 11 a.m. Central Standard Time, and OG Boxing Talk, 8 a.m. Central Standard Time, Monday through Friday, where we get together with the boxing historians. You know who they are. Also, if you like the video, hit the thumbs up, share the video, would be greatly appreciated. Now, an article came out today, and Bob Arum said that Al Haymon was forced to make the Deontay Wilder versus Luis Ortiz fight because Al Haymon had promised Luis Ortiz that fight when he turned down the $7 million that was offered to Luis Ortiz to fight Anthony Joshua. Now, a couple things about that. I thought you didn't know who Al Haymon was and he was a figment of your imagination. I thought nobody wanted to talk to him. He was very difficult to work with, but somehow he not only was able to work with, not importantly, Luis Ortiz portion, but he was able to work with you to come up with an agreement in principle for a fight that would happen the fight after next. Now, of course, I'm being a little tongue in cheek. We always knew that Bob Arum knew exactly who Al Haymon was and that Al Haymon was not a figment of anybody's imagination. But Bob Arum was just in the middle of trashing Bob Arum for the sake of promoting his fights. The thing that I found most interesting about what Bob Arum said, though, is how he referred to the fight between Tyson Fury and Deontay Wilder as an agreement in principle. And then he talked about the purse splits of 50-50 for the second fight of the trilogy. And then obviously there's going to be a rematch clause for Deontay Wilder. And then the split for the winner would be 60-40. First part of that I find interesting is that if you say you have an agreement in principle, you don't have a contract. An agreement in principle, I don't think that's I don't know if that's an enforceable agreement. That's in principle. Like, we agree to the general concept that we will fight, provided that Deontay Wilder gets past Luis Ortiz and the absolutely no doubt about it eventuality that Tyson Fury gets past Otto Wallen. That's an agreement in principle. It's interesting that he used that phrase because I was wondering and people were wondering, like, why would it be that Deontay Wilder and those guys would agree that far ahead to a fight with Tyson Fury and a rematch with Tyson Fury? Now, there's something called a term sheet where you can agree to what you will do, but a term sheet is not a binding agreement because there's not been any consideration exchanged. It's just you laying out an agreement, a high level agreement of when the fight would be, what the key terms in that you guys want to agree to are, how much the cut would be. Is there going to be a rematch clause? Who selects what are the process for whatever all those other terms are that they think is important enough for them to come to an agreement on. So it seems as if there's a lot of questions in place about questions that remain about whether or not the fight between Deontay Wilder and Tyson Fury is going to take place. Now, the other thing that I find interesting, though, is how Bob Arum continually talks about Al Haymon, and he doesn't talk or doesn't speak about Deontay Wilder. Everything that I've heard coming out of the camp of Deontay Wilder makes me believe that Deontay Wilder is the one that's making the decisions about who he fights, when he fights, because he has something called Bomb Squad Promotions. And obviously Bob Arum doesn't have very much respect for fighters that have their own promotional companies, so much so that he almost never acknowledges their existence. When he talks about Errol Spence Jr., he talks about Al Haymon and how he has to work with Al Haymon, and then Al Haymon is going to make these fighters do this. Al Haymon is going to make the fighters do that. Al Haymon is going to keep a fighter from doing this, and Al Haymon is going to keep a fighter from doing that. But that almost never sounds like that's the case when you actually listen to the fighters that are advised or managed by Al Haymon. When Errol Spence Jr. was at the fight for, I believe that was a Maurice Hooker fight in Dallas, and Terrence Crawford and Errol Spence Jr. had their altercation. It's on ES News. You can check it out. It was very, very entertaining. When they had their conversation and Bob Arum stepped in, Errol Spence said, "Let me call my promoter." Picked up his phone and said, "Oh, that's me. That's me. Now, if you like to call my manager, you call my manager, then my manager will talk to me." But it was very clear that Errol Spence Jr. was his own boss, and that Errol Spence Jr. is the one that's going to make the decision about who Errol Spence Jr. fights. That's the same thing people have been saying when it related to making an Errol Spence Jr. versus Keith Thurman fight, that Al Haymon can't make a fighter fight somebody. So why is it that, or how could it be that Al Haymon couldn't make Keith Thurman and Errol Spence Jr. fight each other, but he can make Deontay Wilder fight Tyson Fury, and he can make Deontay Wilder fight Luis Ortiz? Also, I know that I heard Deontay Wilder give a reason for why he was fighting Luis Ortiz and why he wanted to fight Tyson Fury again. That's because he said that he wanted to settle that score. Though I say all that to say, well, maybe that is why Bob Arum conveniently remembers who Al Haymon is when it's time not to, and then act like as if he doesn't know these fighters are in control of their own career to the fullest extent possible. Obviously, in order to fight on a Showtime fight, they're going to have to deal with Showtime. They're going to have to get the approval to air their fights on Showtime, or get approval from Fox to get their fight on Fox. Also, Al Haymon, if he has an advisory contract, I'm sure that it's in there that they have to consult with him about what they do. But there's nothing that I've heard in the actual execution of the relationship, or the actual relationship that takes place between a fighter and Al Haymon, that says Al Haymon is locking people into doing exactly what it is that he wants them to do. And in fact, I think that is the reputation that he has for not doing that, is one of the reasons why he garners so much affection and admiration from the people that work for him. So, Bob Arum has got selective, what do you call that? A selective recognition of people's existence. That should be that. Maybe is that a second cousin of Alzheimer's? Selective recognition of a person's existence. When you want to talk about a fight between Errol Spence and Terrence Crawford, and he says, "I never heard of this guy, Al Haymon. Has anybody ever seen him?" Yeah, because you're really not trying to make that fight. You're trying to milk that out you're trying to milk that out. That's what I believe anyway. But when it's time to talk about the fighters, then you say, "Oh, well, I'm talking to Al Haymon." because you don't want to acknowledge that there's something called man down promotions or bomb squad promotions. And it'd be very interesting to go back and see how long it took for him to actually acknowledge that there was a Mayweather promotions. Right? But I'm sure actually the Manny Pacquiao fight did take place under the PBC banner. So, anyway, that'd be very interesting. Bob Arum's a character, man. 100% character. Interesting to know that this Tyson Fury fight is an agreement in principle. Those, you're not going to be able to enforce that if Deontay Wilder wants to fight Andy Ruiz. At least and I'm just judging off what he said. Obviously, I do not have any of the actual documentation in front of me or access to the documentation, but I just find that real interesting. Let me know what you think in the comment section. And with that, I'm out. Peace.